I should say, may it please the court, since Justice Quince is with us. On behalf of the chair of the criminal law section, Jennifer Sedalis, our chair-elect, Warren Lindsay, our CLE committee, Jenny Dormany, our program administrator, and our community of over 2,100 prosecutors, defenders, public and private, judges, and legal educators. Welcome, everybody, to our Zoom Like a Pro CLE. It's part of a series of free CLEs the criminal law section has been providing, COVID-19 related. My name is Scott Fingerhut. I am CLE chair, and we're thrilled to present this special event for you today, which is obviously more popular than we imagined. There were 547 of you registering. Zoom's going to close us out at 500. We're at 296 so far. Our course number for CLE, which I'll repeat at the end, is 3972, 3972. 5 quick housekeeping matters before we begin. First, as Jenny has asked of you kindly, keep your video and your audio off during our event today. 2, we've taken a lot of precautions not to get Zoom bombed. Right? We embedded a password in the link. We required a password. We enabled the waiting room, but we're not going to close off the meeting. So you can, if you get bounced off or need to leave, you can come back. So if something horrible happens, we're just going to go to black and log back in, right? But let's keep our fingers crossed. 3, we're going to take questions from you live, but not via the chat. Email one of the 3 of us. So here are the 3 emails. Jenny's you have jdormany, D-O-R-M-I-N-Y @floridabar.org. You can email Judge Della O at dellao13@gmail.com. And you can email me. It's at AOL. I know, I'm sorry. hsfpa@aol.com. And throughout our hour and a half together today, we'll keep checking it and get to your questions. Of course, any questions of yours that we do not know, we will file a supplemental brief and get back to you later. 4, we are going to do small section tutorials. Things may go a little fast today, and you'll be able to work on some of the functionalities with us, but not all of them. Plus, we're covering the user experience today, not scheduling meetings, as Judge Della O is going to go into. So if you will email Jenny, if you want to be part of a tutorial, I'll do it with as many groups as want this as a service of your criminal law section. No more than 20 of you at a time, and we'll take half an hour to an hour and play around with the Zoom functionalities. Last but not least, 5, join our section, the criminal law section if you're not a member, or pledge to get involved if you have not been involved yet. It's only $25. Our website is floridabarcls.org, and you really get a lot, and you can impact your criminal justice system and the people and communities whom we serve. Great CLEs is only part of what you get. So join our section. Okay, my co-presenter. All right, just earmuffs, Judge Della O. This guy is the real deal, if you know him. He's a true judge, and all of you know what that means when you're in front of one. There's no one harder working, there's no one smarter, there's no one more humble about it, and there's no one more fair. We're just very lucky to have him here in Miami in the 11th Judicial Circuit. So Judge Della O, take it away.
I'm going to try to live up to that introduction. Thank you for asking me to do this, Scott, and thank you to the Florida Bar Criminal Section for inviting me to do this. This will be a nuts and bolts presentation. If you've been using Zoom for a while, some of this may be a little basic. If you have not been using it, then this will, should be very helpful. I will be at some points sharing the screen and showing you, and a large part of this will be me sharing the screen and showing you the actual settings, and then we'll do hands-on demonstrations of different things you can do with Zoom during a hearing. We have approached this from the user perspective. If you are going to appear in front of a judge on Zoom, what do you need to know to make your presentation as effective as possible? So why Zoom? And primarily the answer to that is that the Florida Supreme Court, when this pandemic, when this emergency started, chose Zoom as the platform that the courts would use to try to hold virtual hearings. There is a lot we can do on Zoom. Just myself alone, and other judges have done other types of hearings, but I alone have done arraignments, motions for release, in custody pleas. I've had 2 or 3 Arthur hearings now. I've had a stand your ground hearing with evidence being presented, with video testimony, not video testimony, video exhibits being played, digital photographs being displayed and introduced into evidence. And other judges have done motions to dismiss, to suppress, competency hearings. That's all here in Miami. So we have gone as virtual as we can. If your jurisdiction hasn't done it yet, I think you can expect that they will. And there's a lot that can be done. So what we're trying to do in this CLE is educate you on how you can best prepare to participate in those hearings as they come. Because the truth is, we don't know when there are going to be jury trials again. We don't know when we're going to be able to let people back into the courtroom again, the general public. But everyone can have access through Zoom. In Miami, our arraignments are open, the hearings are open, anyone can watch. So that if they're interested, either alleged victims or their family, or the defendant's family, or and the defendants in the jail, we even have Zoom in the county facilities, so that defendants are able to participate in the hearings and be heard from. So that's why Zoom, and that's why I think it's important for all of you to learn how to use it. So let's get to the basics of it. I'm going to start with the settings for a user of Zoom. A participant is what I mean by a user, because Zoom is really 2 parts. It's the folks hosting the meeting. That's what we're doing today. There's a slew of settings that we have to deal with in setting up a meeting, especially for security. But there's a whole another set of settings which are just for the users, and I'm going to show you where you can find that. So I'm going to share my screen. And all of you should be able to see that. I'm going to sign in. This is the desktop application for Zoom. And this is where the settings are if you're a user. And this is what normally will pop up for you. You can see it will have your schedule. So I have a division meeting with all my lawyers this afternoon at 3 o'clock. And what you will be looking for is, can everyone see, you can see my cursor moving, Scott? No? And I can't hear you. You're muted, Scott.
Yes, I can see your cursor.
Perfect. Okay. So if everyone sees that little widget there and then settings pops up, that's the universal sign for settings in any Windows application. That's where you want to go to set up your user settings. And I'm going to go through the settings one by one. So we're going to start here, the general settings. If you're on Zoom all the time, then you may want to start Zoom when Windows loads up. And basically all it will do is load this application into your memory. But that's not as important. This second setting is just what happens when you close the window we just came from. It can go to the notification area, which is at the bottom of your screen, or it can go into what's called the taskbar, which is the bottom right of your screen with the small little icons. If you use a dual monitor, this setting may be helpful. I have a dual monitor. I haven't turned it on. It's still very easy to see everything. So that's not as important. This setting here, enter full screen automatically when you start or join a meeting. What it does is just make sure that Zoom takes up your entire screen if you activate that. Automatically copy the invitation is in the event you want to share the invitation URL, that is the address, with someone else. You want to send them an email or something. This automatically copies it to your clipboard so that you can just paste it to an email. Again, none of these are very important. This one can be important if you don't want to accidentally leave a meeting, then you would check this box off. And if you try to leave, it asks you, hey, do you really want to leave the meeting? Connected time just tells you how much time you've been on, if you want to know. This is a reminder. If Zoom is running, because you've started it with Windows, it will flash a message on your computer screen letting you know you have meetings coming up. And then whether this last one is just whether you want to stop your audio when your display or your screensaver begins. It shouldn't start because once you're in Zoom, you're going to have enough interaction with the screen that shouldn't happen. Those are very basic. None of these are really all that critical to you. The next one is a critical setting. And the first thing I'm going to tell you about video and audio and about anything you're going to do on Zoom in front of a court in a hearing is to test your setup before every hearing, not just yesterday it worked, so I think it's going to work today. I violated this rule yesterday when I was having a meeting with some lawyers about a case. My Zoom had worked perfectly about an hour earlier. All of a sudden, they can't hear me, they can't see me. Something had gone wrong with my setup. Before every hearing, come here and test things out. So automatically, this is not showing me right now because I'm going through, won't even explain why. I'm going another way into Zoom. But normally, if you go to your video settings, this will show you what your camera sees. Because I'm using a virtual webcam right now, it doesn't show me. But you can set to be widescreen, which is what I am right now, or you can go original ratio, which is just a box. That's all up to you, how much of your background you want to show. You can enable HD. What I have found is different video cameras have a different width, depending on whether they're in high definition or not, and you can activate it here. If this camera worked, as I click each of those, then you would be able to see the differences. So when you're testing the camera to make sure that it works, as you press these different things, it will show what the impact will be on the display. Mirror My Video, basically what it does is it flips things around so that you can read read what's going on in the screen. So for example, if you see the seal behind me, it says the Great Seal of the State of Florida. If I hadn't mirrored my video, that would actually be backwards and it would be unreadable. So that's a setting so that you can read things, especially if you're going to hold something up to the camera, you'll want it to look correct. You'll need to mirror your video. Touch Up My Appearance is supposed to make you look prettier. It has not helped me yet, so I don't really know what it does. Meetings. Now, this are things that will happen when you enter a meeting. These settings are all very important. First one is always display participants' name on their video. This is so you can see other folks' name. And that way, when someone's speaking, you know who it is in a hearing. And we're going to go to profile where your name appears, so you'll know how to make sure everything is correct there. But this is for the judges. We always want that turned on so that we can see who's speaking and how their names are spelled for the court reporter. Turn off my video when joining meeting. I always think that's a great idea. You want to come in, make sure everything is going okay before you turn on your video, but that's a choice whether you come in with video on or off. The next option is show video preview. This is, regardless of whether you're going to go in with the video turned on or off, you should always check off this box, because what it will do is when you try to join a meeting, first it will show you what your camera is displaying and you'll be able to see whether everything is working. Hide non-video participants. The reason we asked all of you to turn off your video is so that the only people we would see on the screen, and if you have hidden all of the non-video participants, the only people you would see are the people who have their camera turned on. So if right now you're participating in this seminar and you are seeing a slew of names, you could be seeing up to 49 people per screen, as I'll show you in a setting soon. If you're seeing a bunch of other names, there's an easy way to hide everyone and only see Scott and myself. And what you will do is go to anyone whose video is turned off, which theoretically is now everybody except Scott and me. Go to the top right corner. There are 3 dots on that corner. And if you click on that, one of the options will be hide non-video participants. And you will magically see everybody disappear. And the only people then left will be Scott and me. So this automatically does it. This is a setting so you don't have to do that in every meeting. But so if you turn it on here, it will always work that way. Spotlight my video when I speak is just simply, it's going to highlight when you're speaking your video so that you see yourself. Then display up to 49 participants is just so that if there are enough people with their video turned on, it will go to really, really tiny boxes. If you turn that off, I think the maximum is in the 20s, low 20s, maybe just 20 people, and then you can scroll the screen to the side to see everyone else. All right, those are your video settings. Audio settings. Again, test your audio. This is where most of the problems will occur, will be on the audio. And if you press the test speaker button, you'll hear some dings, and then you turn it off. You tell it, I can hear it. You can stop it. You can adjust the volume. And then on the microphone, if you press test mic, it will ask you to speak, and then it will play it back to you as a recording so that you can test to make sure that the microphone is working and picking you up, and you'll hear if there's any echoes or anything like that. The last 4 settings: automatically join audio by computer. So there's 2 ways to listen to audio and to participate in audio with Zoom. You can use the computer audio, which is the microphone. Generally, it is built in. If you're using a desktop, it'll be built into the external camera you're using. If you're using a laptop, usually the microphone's already built in, just like the camera is. So you can use that. But the other way to do it is to call in, and we're going to be discussing that option. You can call into Zoom and not use the microphone on your computer, and that is much better audio if you actually call in with your cell phone. So you're using your camera on your laptop or your desktop to see what's going on, and you're being seen, but the audio is coming through your cell service or your landline, and that audio is much better. Normally, if you're not going to do that option, then you want to automatically join audio by computer, because if you don't do that, then when you first log in, you're going to have to press that button and say join audio. If sometimes you're going to use one and sometimes the other, then you want to uncheck this box so that you're not automatically going in with your computer audio, and you can call in, and then you can use that other option that I just told you. This option is, do you mute your microphone every time when you join a meeting? This is part of the etiquette that we will discuss at the end. Everyone who is not speaking should always be muted. This is, these microphones are very, very sensitive. They pick up all sorts of noise. If your cell phone goes off, if you have ding notifications on your cell phone, every text message you get will be broadcast to everyone. So you always want to mute your microphone. This third option here, press and hold spacebar to temporarily mute yourself, is very helpful. If you're in a meeting where you're going to be speaking and then not speaking for a while and speaking again, you can hold the spacebar down, and it works like, I'm going to date myself here, but the walkie-talkies that we had when we were kids. When you hold down the button, you can talk. Everybody can hear you. If you're not holding the spacebar, you're automatically muted. That's generally how I'll participate in meetings. It makes it much easier to jump in when you need to, but it also keeps you unmuted, and it's an easy way to make sure you're always unmuted. And then the last button is if you're using headsets, like gaming headsets or any sort of headset with a microphone, you can sync the buttons so that you can press the buttons on the headset to mute or unmute yourself. Next option is share screens. I don't recall what Windows 7 ARIA mode is. It's turned off, but most of us don't have Windows 7 anymore, but I'm not sure what that is. Enter full screen. There's 2 ways a screen can be shown in Zoom. You can have maximize the Zoom window, which means the whole screen is taken up except the bottom of your Windows taskbar, where it shows all the applications that are running at the bottom of your screen. That's what happens when you maximize a window. You just say, make the window as big as my screen, but leave all the apps that are running in the bottom showing. But the other way is to enter full screen. So that's the first option. So that when I'm sharing the screen, if you have selected the option of entering full screen, the entire monitor becomes the Zoom window. You will not see any notifications. You won't see the date and time at the bottom right. Everything is Zoom. This is purely a choice, but you pick which way you want it to work. Scale to fit, I think you should always have checked on, and I believe it comes default by Zoom turned on, but basically it's going to shrink or expand the shared items and the shared screen to make sure that it all fits within the Zoom window and you don't have to scroll left or right or up or down to see it. Show Zoom windows during screen share is when you're sharing your screen. If you happen to be in a meeting where you can share your screen, and in a hearing, you may very well need to do that. It's a question of whether it shows the actual Zoom windows as an option. You should normally have that turned off. Enable remote control. I doubt you will ever use that, and you should generally have that turned off unless one of your IT people, some technician is telling you turn it on because I'm trying to troubleshoot a problem on your computer. What it basically does is when you can share your screen with someone and they can control your applications. Again, you almost never want to do that. Side-by-side mode is is the ability to see the shared screen that's being shown to you, but to also have on the side to be able to see all the windows of the people who are speaking. And then silent system notifications when sharing the desktop. Always smart. I don't know what kind of notifications you get on your screen, but if, for example, you have your cell phone synced with your Windows, then sometimes your text messages will pop up, or emails will pop up with a subject line that you don't want other people to see. So if you turn that on, whenever you're sharing the desktop, like I'm doing now, I'm sharing my desktop. If any notification comes in, it will not show it. It's going to silence everything until we're done. But that's only on my other screen. You may be seeing some of my emails coming in. That's because of this weird setup I had to do to be able to show you the settings, because Zoom doesn't like us to be able to show our settings to anyone else. This chat is it's not settings you need to worry about. These are more for when you're the host, really. The virtual background. Very important to have virtual backgrounds. Right now, I have a virtual background. I'm going to stop sharing for a second to show you the advantages of a virtual background. So the primary advantage is simply privacy. If somebody walks in, you might have seen this video. It was about a year or two old, where some guy was on CNN, I think, and his two kids came running into the room, and his wife comes running in after them to grab them. He didn't have a virtual background. So I'm going to show you how you set virtual backgrounds, but here's the advantage to it. So what you've been seeing since I've been on here is this official background that we use in the 11th Judicial Circuit. Every hearing, all the judges need to have this unless they're in the courtroom. If I turn it off, you see my office, nothing very interesting to see yet. If you're in a meeting, you can actually have some fun with the virtual backgrounds. You can put penguins behind you. You can put the Millennium Falcon. You could even put on videos, and this is a Brady Bunch video, so I'm in the middle now. Some people will create videos of themselves walking into the room and then walking out, and it sort of goes meta on you, or you can put your favorite university on there. We probably lost at least a third of the participants at this point, Scott. Okay,
Judge,
so I'm gonna, yes.
Do you want to discuss for a moment, if you have older technology in your camera and your computer,
yeah.
You're supposed to have a green screen. Apples do this pretty well. Newer computers do it pretty well.
Right. So if you have a computer, I'm going to say that's only about 2 years or less for sure, it should work with the virtual desktop. Slightly older computers will not. And by the way, it has nothing to do with your camera. You can have a great camera, but it's a question of the processor and I'm guessing probably the graphics card of the computer. It's either the processor or the graphics card or both. As soon as you try to choose a virtual background, the first thing that will happen is Zoom has to download some more software to you, but it's very quick. So it'll download it, and then it will tell you if it cannot support a virtual background without a green screen. So you'll know very quickly if your computer supports it or not. If it does not, then you can select I have a green screen, and when you do that, I don't have one, so it just messes everything up, and you see the seal is sort of coming through and the flag is sort of coming through. But if you have a green screen and you put it behind you, then Zoom can in fact put a virtual background. That's if your computer doesn't have that capability. It's really going to be a question of age. And this is the mirror my video. See, what's actually going on is our IT people created a background that was already reversed so that you wouldn't have to mirror your video, so it would come out right. So in this situation, I have to unmirror my video so that you see the seal correctly. This is, again, one of the reasons you want to test out your video before you start.
Judge?
Yes.
Just the first comment we have received from the 400 who were on with us is that they can see your emails coming in.
Yeah, that's because of the way I'm having to do the settings is kind of unique. And I could try to explain it, but it's super technical. The bottom line is Zoom would not let me get to this screen where I could show you the different settings unless I went this back way. And this back way is a total different iteration of Zoom. And therefore it is not suppressing my notifications, but these are all my official emails, so I'm not worried about it.
Well, I don't know, some angry defendant or lawyer about to email you.
That'll happen. Okay, so the way you choose a background is, of course, you can use any of the three that already come with Zoom, or if not, you click on the plus screen, you say add image, and then you go to whatever folder you have saved these images in. I have them all saved here under these wallpapers. Then you pick the one you want, and as soon as you click on it, it downloads it and it becomes an option. So one of the ones I've used before is a coronavirus one. It will download it, and now it becomes an option that I can select. Where can you find wallpapers? I'm going to share with you one link that has a number of professional wallpapers on it. You can also just do Google searches and say Zoom backgrounds. If you want one of a particular, I want pretty flowers, just Google pretty flowers, go to the images setting on Google and download the pictures you want. Any JPEG, PNG, any of those, any videos, anything like that will play as a background. But of course, you should test it before you start using it. Recording is only if you have the ability to record. That will only happen if you actually host the meeting. So we don't really need to discuss that. As a user, you won't be using that. Profile. This is where you can select how you will appear in meetings. So what that will do when you click on it, is that it will take you, and can they see the browser now? They should be able to, yes. So it's going to take you to this, to a browser. It's going to open your browser and it's going to take you to this page. This is the page for the settings if you're hosting a meeting. And over here on the left side are all the settings for hosting a meeting and all the different options you can choose. But it is also the only time you need to go here as a user is for your profile. Let me minimize this because I can't see. So if you want to change the way you appear, you go here to edit. I'm going to go back to make sure I didn't go too fast. You go here to edit, and you can put in your name, your last name, obviously any information. And what will appear is basically your name will appear in the window when you're in a Zoom setting. But this is where you can go to change that. There's one other option here I wanted to show you, and that is this option, calendar and contact integration. This can be very useful to you because there is an option, which I'll show you in a moment, to see all the meetings that you have coming up. So if judges are sending you hearing information so that you can participate in a virtual hearing, they will all show up in Zoom, but only if you've connected your calendar to Zoom. Because what Zoom will do is it will read your calendar, it will find any Zoom references in there, and then basically the Zoom URL, and then it will put it in one place for you within the Zoom software. I'll show you where it does that. But you connect your calendar, it can only connect three things: Google, Exchange, if your office is running an Exchange service, or Office 365. You just select it, you put in your username, password, it automatically connects it, and then it populates the Google. Let me get out of this. What it does is it populates this here with your meetings. So the only meeting I have coming up right now is my division meeting this afternoon, so that's all it's showing. But if you have integrated your calendar and you have a number of other meetings, they'll all show up here on the left. And the nice thing is you can just start the meeting right from here. You just say join. I'm starting because I'm the host, so mine says start, but yours, if you're joining a hearing, you just click here, join, and you're in the hearing. So that's the reason that I suggest synchronizing your calendars. So that was profile. You do your name and you can synchronize your calendars there. One other option here that I think is very important, accessibility. So there's just one option here that I want to talk about, meeting controls. You should check off, always show your meeting controls. So let me show you what I mean by the meeting controls. I'm going to show you now, I'm going to put up a different screen of a picture I took earlier today. Okay, this down here where some of you may be seeing this and some of you may not. It says unmute, stop videos. For us, it says security participants. That's the meeting controls. If you do not always show your meeting controls, then when you are not moving your cursor, those controls disappear. And you get more video on the screen, but what you lose is the ability to know for example, that you're not unmuted, or that you're right, that people can hear you, that you have not muted yourself. I think it's always a good idea to keep this at all times up, so that you don't start talking and say things that you don't want other people to hear. So this is a way to keep it in your face. And then all the other options can be useful. For example, the chat button here, if somebody sends a chat, a little number will pop up. It's called a badge, and it will tell you how many unread messages are in the chat. So you may not have the chat sidebar turned on, but if you have this always showing, then you'll be able to see that there are new chats in there, in the chat sidebar, and then you can turn it on. So that's why I think that that's a very useful, turn that off, a very useful setting for you. Those are all of the basic settings for Zoom. And we're now going to talk about the mechanics once you're in a hearing, and how you can make yourself effective. Scott.
Okay. The first three things I want to cover with you about in-hearing mechanics are the views on your screen, sharing information, documents, and videos, and recordings. Okay, so first let's talk about views. And let me just remind you, since things are flying pretty quickly here, so we get everything in and your questions in the 90 minutes, again, don't worry, just email Jenny, tell her you'd like to be signed up for one of the private group tutorials, and we'll schedule them from there. Okay. First, most of your computers, look in the top right-hand corner, you'll see either speaker view or gallery view, whichever one you have preferred so far, or just have fallen into. Right? Experiment with them if you haven't yet. If you pick gallery view, since it's just the judge and myself here right now, you'll see us each in boxes that are the same size. And again, based on the setting that you have selected earlier, you can get 25 boxes. That's what I prefer to be the maximum of video screens. Judge, do we know if you select that feature, will they put up to 50 video boxes on a screen?
They'll put up the, you mean the 49?
49.
Yeah. You mean that? Yeah, it'll put up to all of those, but they have to turn off to hide non-participants.
Okay. So gallery view, this is what you get. If you click on speaker view, assuming everyone's mics are off when they're not speaking or are not giving any ambient noise if they're on speaker view, whoever is speaking becomes the large box, and whoever else is participating with their videos on or their non-hidden non-videos, you'll just see them across the top. That's helpful in a hearing. When the judge speaks, you see her or him. When the lawyers speak, you see them. And it's a convenient feature to have. Again, though, if everyone's mics are on, people are going to be popping up in speaker view, and you might not prefer that. Okay. This we can experiment together. Let's say whether you're on speaker view or gallery view, you'd like to hone in on somebody for whatever reason. Right, so right now, it's just the judge and myself on the screen. So if you'll put your cursor in either one of our boxes, go to the top right-hand corner to the three dots, and click on Pin Video. And when you pin the video, as long as you keep it pinned, that person is the person you are going to see. Right? When you're finished with it, top left-hand corner of the box, unpin the video. Now, sometimes that takes you back to a view you did not prefer. It may take you back to speaker view and you preferred gallery view. So then you would just click on the view in the top right-hand side and take it back to where you want. Now, if you are, I suppose there are three different categories of Zoom folks, as the judge has been telling us. It's like witness, subject, and target. Okay, we have host, co-host, and guest. Right? So if you are a host or a co-host, you can have the feature to spotlight a video. And so now, whether you wanted to see Judge De La O large in your screen, there he is, because I have spotlit or spotlighted him. And now I will cancel that. Again, it took me back to speaker view, and for now, I prefer to be with you on gallery view. Okay, remember, if you have questions, email them to the judge or Jenny now, since they'll get them while I'm talking. The judge has already covered hiding all non-video participants. All right, so we don't have to go over that once again. Now let's do sharing, okay? So I'm a little nervous about this since there are 403 of you with us. We're gonna temporarily allow everyone to share. Don't actually share, but we want you to see the functionality. So don't do anything yet, okay? Fingers crossed. All right, all of you should now see, it used to be, I thought, a nicer color of green. It has changed just in the last couple of days. You should see share screen, bottom center of your screen, all right? Now, you're not gonna share anything, but click on share screen, and anything that's open in your computer now, you're gonna see on a separate Zoom window. You're also gonna see something called a whiteboard, which we'll come back to. So in theory, you could share by clicking on it, anything that's open on your computer. Okay, see, someone did it. God knows what it is. That's why I just want everyone, we didn't prepare anybody for this. It could be pictures from the regatta. All right, I don't know what's going on. But you could share it, a video, a DVD, a document, and that's how you would do it. So now, let's take it off. All right, that was pretty successful. So I'll share something with you now. I was trying to figure out something hopeful and non-COVID related to share. And that's what I felt like seeing, feeling free. I'm in Jersey at the Meadowlands with my brother, watching The Boss, okay? So that's sharing a document, a photograph, okay? You can also share a video. So the judge and I were discussing what to share with you, 10 or 20 seconds of something. He was partial to My Cousin Vinny and Two Utes. It's always a great clip. My nieces wanted me to show you something about a monkey enjoying his favorite slime. It was okay. Then there's The Office, I Declare Bankruptcy, right, which is always a favorite among people. But again, hopefulness. So there's this kid, I think his name is Larry Monroe. I don't know if you've seen him. Right? So this is just going to YouTube. It was open on my computer. I can expand it to make it larger. I don't think these are doctored videos. Look at what this kid can do, or man. I think he's a high school basketball player. Okay. Now, admittedly, he must have seen my high school moves and stolen some of them. But those don't look doctored to me. So that's how easy it is to share, okay? Let me show you a trick. So let me share, let me get Bruce back up. Okay. If you have not hidden all non-video participants, then you're loaded with boxes on the right-hand side right now. And all the other boxes are hidden because what your co-counsel, opposing counsel, the court, whomever, whatever they're sharing, is taking up the screen. Even if you've hidden all non-video participants, now you see me and the judge on the right-hand side and the document. Okay. Top of your screen, you should see view options. Interestingly, the sharer doesn't see that functionality. It's one of the things that I haven't been able to figure out on Zoom yet. But click on view options, scroll down, and you'll see side by side. What the judge and I are going to show you now is how to make the document smaller on your own screen and to create more room to see videos of participants if that's what you want. When you click on side by side, a line has now been created in between the right side of the exhibit and the left side of your video. Put your cursor over that line and slide the document to the left as far as you want. And you'll see how it creates room for your video participants. That's a pretty cool feature. If you leave it clicked, it'll just stay like that anytime someone shares something. Any questions, Judge, or are we okay?
Nope, doing good.
Okay. All right. Annotations. This is a really great Zoom functionality. It allows you to mark on documents, create demonstratives and visual aids during advocacy. Right now, none of you should be able to annotate if we have pressed and clicked all the right buttons. But we're going to show you what it is, and this is something we can practice in the tutorials. So let me share with you this screen, which is what it looks like when you click annotate under view options at the top of your screen, right, if it had been activated for you, and that separate drop box comes down. Right, and this lets you annotate. So since I can annotate, I'm going to drop mine down. So what is this? Okay. Who's drawing on it? That's not me, Judge.
That's not me either.
Okay. Which of the 475? Okay. So, all right. So, okay. Why doesn't everyone have a good time, right? And mark on this document. And then when you click clear, exactly. Hi. All right.
A heart.
So far nothing nasty is written. What? Justice Quince misses me appearing before her. That is phenomenal. Okay, now you can do other things, right? So play with this now, right? You can draw under format. You could pick your color, the thickness of your lines, bold, italics, the size of it. Right? Now, not that you could see your individual stuff, but if you clicked undo, one by one, it would undo what you had done. And then if you click redo, one by one, it would bring it back. If you click on stamp, you could say, witness, could you please, I guess, put a gold star or a red heart where you were standing when you first heard the police siren, things like that. Under draw, you could play with different arrows that you could leave. It really is a great thing as you're experiencing. Now, okay, let's try this. Everybody clear everything. Go to clear and clear oil. Clear all. Doyle rules. Oh, Doyle rules. Well, we'll have to look up who that is. Okay, click on, all right, now, since we did that, let me stop that share. We survived that, Judge. Okay, share screen again. Whenever you click share screen, a great feature of Zoom, there's the whiteboard. All right, so don't start drawing yet. You could do it in a minute. If I click on text, it will create a text box for me. And in whatever color and size font, you could tell the judge or a jury in theory, probably not a criminal one, Judge Dello, but maybe a civil one in those cases, that the three most important words the jury needs to consider are malice, mayhem, and murder. And you can save that as a file. You can bring it back. All right, so I'm going to erase that now and go ahead and play with the whiteboard. Draw, type, Carol Baskin killed her husband. Prove me. Is that Tiger King stuff? Hello and thank you. All right, there are cool arrows. You can, I haven't seen anybody play with this yet. All right, but under draw on an arrow, you can create an arrow like that or an arrow like that. Okay, I'm going to clear all drawings so you can start all over again. Go Knowles.
That was not me.
You already did it though, so it's you open the floodgates. Right, so you're seeing you can create great diagrams. Purple drank. I don't know what that is. I'll ask my nieces. Hello, Spencer. Okay, some UF people. All right, so we've had our fun. Clear. All right. Stop share. But obviously it's a really cool feature. And with practice, you can do it as you're speaking and it can seem almost effortless, which is what we're looking for. Last, before I turn it back to Judge Dello for something, recordings. And if you're a host or a co-host, you can record what's going on here. There are different levels of Zoom accounts, from free to paying some money and more money. I think Judge Dello and I agreed that the differences between the accounts are how many attendees you can have and how long a Zoom meeting of yours may go. I think another issue may be the types of recordings you receive, but that could be a setting. What do I mean by that? At FIU, at the law school, obviously we're teaching remotely now. After every class, when I record, I get 5 files emailed to me. One is a video from the speaker view perspective. One is a video from the gallery view perspective. The other is just an audio of the class. The other is just a written transcript, which is pretty accurate. It's not good enough for court accurate, but pretty accurate of the transcript of what everyone said. And if there's been chatting going on, which we have deactivated for now, Judge Dello will deal with that in a minute, the group chats, which he will show you, get typed up. And I'm pretty sure the private chats get transcribed in the audio also. At least I have seen them on my account. And sometimes private chats are indeed intended to be private and should be private. So in theory, shouldn't even be on Zoom. And sometimes, like when you reply all and you're really not supposed to on an email, you're private chatting to the last person who private chatted with you, and it's not the person you intended to reply to. So you gotta be careful. Normally when you record, you will save to the cloud, the Zoom cloud. You're paying for that service. Most of us don't have room on our computers to save these huge video files. What's great is when you download it, if you want to download and keep a file to your personal Dropbox, you are downloading the actual file, not just the link to Zoom, which is going to disappear in 6 months to a year, so you can actually download the file. Lastly, when it comes to recording, you can edit your recording. It'll have a slider for what time you want to start and what time you want to end, so you can start recording your meeting a little earlier, let your recording go a little later, and set your time parameters. And that's the link you can either upload or share with other people, and that's what they can see. Okay. Judge, breakout rooms?
Yep, you need to make me the host, Scott.
I shall make you. I'm just going to the top right of his box to the 3 dots. And as the host, it's giving me the functionality to make him the host. And would you co-host me back, please?
Right. Okay, so there's 2 rooms we're going to talk about. First, breakout rooms, and then the waiting rooms. A breakout room is, if the best analogy I can use is when you're in a mediation, when you go to one of the caucus rooms and you get sent in there by yourself with your client to talk privately or with the mediator. That's really what a breakout room is. It's creating another Zoom session, but it is outside this main session. So we are all in the main session. You go into a breakout room and you can talk to the folks who are in there. Nobody else can see it. Nobody else can hear it. They will only know what's happening in there if they join the room. And the only person who can join the room without permission is the host. The host has the power to put people in break rooms and can join the break room. But if you're in a break room, you'll know that the host has joined you. Now, we use these break rooms in down here when we're taking pleas from in custody defendants or even out of custody. We've had a couple of those over Zoom. We use it because sometimes things come up, you know, the plea's been worked out ahead of time. Some things come up, the defendant has a question. I then put the defendant's Zoom and the lawyer in a room, in a break room. They talk and then they come out. So what I'm going to do is, there's 2 ways to create break rooms. One is, or to assign people to break rooms. I can pick who goes into what room, which is what we normally do, obviously during a plea, or I can let Zoom randomly appoint you or assign you to different rooms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a number of rooms. I'm going to do about 10, and I'm going to assign all 409 of you to these rooms randomly. So Zoom is going to send you into these rooms. At that point, if you want, I don't know if you'll be able to unmute yourselves. I will click the setting here so that you can unmute yourselves. You can turn on your cameras and you can say hello to about 40 other people. You may even know some of them. So I am now allowing you to unmute yourselves. When you get in there, you can also remove yourself from the room. I want you to look around to see if you can figure it out. And wait, don't unmute yourselves just yet. Yeah, wait till you're in the room. Wait till you're in the room. So go ahead and turn off your cameras. All right. So what's going to happen is this first time, and the reason we're going to do this twice is so you understand the distinction. The first time I assign you to a room, you're going to get an invitation. You're going to get a notice that you've been assigned to a room and ask you to join the room. The second time it's going to be different, and we're going to talk about that. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and assign you all.
Judge, could you make me a co-host?
Are you not a co-host now?
I don't.
Oh, you're not. Sorry, I will do that.
All right, I'm not going to join the breakout, although you're inviting me.
Yes, I've made you a co-host.
Thank you. We got a question while they were away.
Okay.
Is there an easy way to save the invitation to a group calendar? Our office uses Outlook.
Save the invitation to a group calendar. Yeah, you should get.
Well, you're going to answer that if you know.
I'm trying to remember. I don't recall if the invitations have a setting, have a button you can click to download, and it's called an ICS file.
Well, what I'll do is I'll ask them.
But I can, the easy way is what I said earlier, so I can discuss that with you.
When you turn it over to me next, before I do my next little segment,
Okay.
I'll do the questions.
Okay.
It's a very enthusiastic crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, they had quite a bit of fun with that. That's funny. Yeah, everybody's still in the rooms. So I think what I'm going to do is just close.
Hey, Scott, it's Jenny. Sorry. Someone wanted to know if discussions in the breakout room are recorded or transcribed.
Yeah, they're not.
Okay.
They're not. But we can mention that when we come back.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and close the room, so it's going to tell them they've got 60 seconds.
Okay.
I would love to know what kind of discussions they're having in there.
Are you going to do the waiting room also?
Yeah.
To put them
But
in
after
order?
I send them back to the waiting room, to the breakout room.
Okay, video's off, everybody. Although it's lovely to see you.
Okay, here's the deal.
Look at like so
That was a lot.
Closed off. Closed
Thanks.
off.
I unmuted everybody when I meant to mute everybody.
Scott, you're still muted.
Yeah, that was because I pressed mute. Oh, are you able to unmute yourself, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I was just talking to myself there. I wanted to be.
All right, and now all the breakout rooms, everybody should be back. Please turn off your videos.
Seeing everybody for a quick second.
Right.
So Amanda Maxwell for a second there.
I got you, girl.
Okay, so now it was easy to get into the breakout room when I invited you, right? But here's the thing, and this is what throws everybody off when they need to go back to the room to talk to their client again. I cannot invite you again without closing all the rooms, recreating them, and reassigning you to it. But I don't need to because you've already been assigned to a breakout room. So now you're having the colloquy with the judge, something else has come up, and you again need to talk to your client. You do not need my invitation to go to the breakout room. What you want to do is, you should now have at that bottom meeting control panel, it should say breakout room. You should click on it and join the room you've been assigned to. And everybody should do that. And then get yourselves back out. I am not going to close it unless I can't get all 400 of you back. But you need to figure out where the button is to leave the breakout room. Do you remember where it is, Scott? Is it the bottom? I think it's the bottom right to leave the room, right?
Yes. And remember the question, one of them pending
Oh,
is
we cannot.
whatever they said in breakout rooms.
Yeah, we do not record. You cannot be recorded in there, and there's no transcript of what's going on in the breakout rooms. It is a private room. So go ahead and join the breakout room you were in. I'm going to go ahead and open them. They're all open. Now you can join. And I have 3 that are unassigned, so I'm going to assign them. So the 3 of you who now are getting invitations, you had not been on before when I did the breakout room, so you're actually getting an invitation to join. Not everybody's joining.
We're also okay on time, Judge. We have about a half an hour left.
Okay.
You're still going to separately do the waiting room?
Yeah, somebody's asking me for help, so I'm gonna go in there and find out what's going on.
Okay, I'll miss you. Judge Dello is saving someone in one of the breakout rooms. Larry Turner, my friend, how are you? Everyone's moving too quickly. Okay, the judge is back but muted. Let me unmute him.
Oh, right. So
You're right.
I went in there, but the person who asked for help was already gone.
Hold it. I just saw Miss Rasco's gorgeous kid.
I saw that. Yep.
All right, get that kid back.
There we go.
Look at that
Hello,
kid.
Miss Rasco.
How old? 1. You're famous. Famous and gorgeous. We're gorgeous and famous.
Let's see. Okay, so let's see where
Okay,
we're at.
so
Go ahead and
well, that
close
dog is gorgeous too. I don't want to discriminate.
All right, I'm closing all the rooms so that whoever is not back will be back soon.
While we have a moment,
Yeah,
you want to knock out 2 quick questions.
but remember, they're not all back. Oh, these are new questions?
One old, one new, and we can wait till they're all back.
Okay. That's not Ben Cuny. That was Mr. Davis.
Oh, Michael was here. I missed him.
Yeah. You can't
Yeah.
unmute yourself.
I know that man.
Yeah.
Okay. I see Bob Hertzberg's lovely vestibule of some sort.
All right, let's go ahead and close videos.
Okay. Videos are getting closed.
Breakout rooms. I think everybody's out of the breakout rooms. Everybody's back.
Almost. People are still popping up. There is Ben Cuny from the Ben Cuny Memorial Library. Anybody saw that? All right. I see Gail. Hey, Hugh. I see him. Good to see you. All right. 2 questions are pending, Judge Della O. One was a few people were having trouble annotating. It wasn't working for them. Don't worry about it. We'll handle that in the private tutorials, or just email me later on today and I'll take you through it. The other was whether invitations could be saved, and if so, how. This person's office uses Outlook. How to save an invitation to a group calendar.
Group calendar.
Yes, I'm just reading it verbatim.
Yeah, I don't know how to save it to a group calendar. I know you can sync your calendar with Zoom and then it will automatically populate your calendar. Maybe once it's in there, you can save it to a group calendar from your calendar, but I don't know the answer to that.
All right, so where are we next?
I thought there was another question. No?
Oh, no, we're
Okay.
done.
Okay, so waiting rooms. Some judges, primarily in civil, will use waiting rooms. We use a waiting room in this meeting for security purposes, primarily so we can kick you out very quickly, and you can't get back in to the main session if we've kicked you out. That's why we use them. In the civil divisions, I know they're using them the same so that they can check people in for motion calendars. So the same way the bailiff might have you wait out in the hall, so those judges are using waiting rooms. In criminal, in our division at least, we're not really using the waiting rooms because our courtrooms generally everybody just walks in and then we call the cases. So when I do arraignments in the morning, there may be 40, 50 people in the arraignment and they wait till I call the division, then they unmute themselves and they announce themselves, so we don't need the waiting room. But a waiting room can be very useful during a hearing. I was having a standard ground, yeah, it was a standard ground hearing or not Arthur hearing, but I think it was standard ground. And one side invoked the rule. And I had 3 witnesses on the Zoom session. So I took 2 of the witnesses and put them in the waiting room. And then we took testimony from the first witness. And then I let in the next witness from the waiting room. As you saw, when you go into the waiting room as this meeting started, I compare it to purgatory. You're sitting there, you can't hear anything, you can't see anything, and everything is white. And that is very useful for that purpose. The host of a meeting, the judge can turn on or turn off a waiting room on the fly. So if I wanted to right now, I could turn off the waiting room and then people would just come in automatically. So normally in criminal, we start the hearing without a waiting room, but if the need arises for one, either we're getting Zoom bombed or we want to, somebody invokes the rule, then that would be the use of the waiting room. While you're in the waiting room, the judge can send you messages. Any host can send you a message. Some of you saw a message from Jenny from the bar at the beginning, letting you know to come in with your cameras turned off and your mics muted. So you can communicate with the people in the waiting room. They cannot communicate back, and they cannot communicate with each other. All right. Next issue we were going to discuss was the chat. I think you sort of already covered about being careful with the chats.
Yeah,
Assume
so-
whatever you say can be read.
All right, so since you all had so much fun in our last experiment, we're going to turn on chat so you can see the functionality. It'll be on the right-hand side once you click on it where the participants was. I know you won't be able to help yourself, but don't chat anything yet. All right, so we're going to allow everyone to chat. All right, so now click on chat. All right. Now, if you look all the way on the bottom, you would be able to pick to whom you want to chat. You could send a group message to everyone. Please don't. And there it goes. All this gets transcribed. So if you want to say something that's not particularly savory about someone, I wouldn't, because it's going to be there. You can also scroll down and pick any person you want and chat with that person privately. A little word of warning. It doesn't necessarily stay on that person as solidly as you think it might, and you really have to be careful if you think you're privately chatting with one person and you really are privately chatting with another person. Okay, so everyone is saying hello, hello from the Panhandle, that's lovely. Okay, let's now turn that off. Sorry, everybody. Okay, back to our outline. Oh, Judge, did you want to show them how to share a file over chat? We can turn it on to show them how to share a file.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm having trouble finding, it's not coming up with the ability to share a file. I'm not getting the option.
Let me see.
I've been trying to set it up, and I'm the host.
Okay, well, while you're looking for that.
No, it's not there.
Oh.
Let me make you the host and see if maybe host can't share files. That doesn't really make sense, right?
No.
But I'm going to make you the host just to see, because before I had no trouble with it.
Just so you know, what we're trying to figure out, which we do regularly,
yeah,
is when chat is open. And now let me make you the co-host, Judge. When the chat is open, you could send a file that people can open and download.
It is not giving me the option. Very strange.
All right, well, let's keep moving on.
Yeah,
All right.
normally it's in the chat where you say to everyone, where you can change that to the right of that. There'll be a button that says files, and you can click on it and attach a file, a Word file, a PDF, whatever you want, and then everyone can download it. And I don't know why it's not there.
Okay, let's everyone rename yourself. It's just for this meeting. In your profile that Judge Della took you through earlier, you could permanently name yourself and change it there from meeting to meeting. But in an individual meeting like this one, put your cursor in your box, go up to the 3 dots. Only you'll be able to see this because the videos are hidden from us. Click on rename, and you can call yourself anything you want. There, I have become Bobby Axelrod from Axe Capital. You can call yourself anything you want. Now, what a lot of judges like and some insist on, probably as we develop more local rules about all this, is you identify yourself either as an assistant public defender, an assistant state attorney, counsel for a particular party, that you rename yourself individually for that meeting, which now you all know how to do. Reactions, not used a lot for court necessarily, but on the bottom of your screen to the right, if you click on reactions, there are a couple you can choose from. This may make yourself known to the court, right? So You can do the clapping hands, upper left-hand corner. It goes away by itself. We use that as raise your hand, but there's a separate raise your hand feature under participants, which we'll get to. Maybe you just want to give a thumbs up. And in your settings, you could pick whatever shade of thumb, right? Someone just raised their hand. If you go into participants, you can raise your hand, and then the host or co-host can go into participants and see who's raised their hand and call on people as they've done it, right? There are other features in participants. If you look at the bottom, you can vote yes or no and tell someone to go slower or faster. So some interesting things.
And what happens for the judge is when you raise your hand, your name goes to the top of the participants. Not a big issue if there's only a few people in the hearing, but if there's a lot of folks, for example, here, when you all raise your hand, normally the participant list is alphabetical. Well, whoever has their hand raised, they float to the top, and the host can immediately see that someone has their hand raised.
And also, if everyone is supposed to be, of the 400 of us together now, if one of you unmutes, instead of being listed alphabetically in the participant list, the unmuted person will jump to the top. So the hosts and co-hosts can figure out what action to take.
Right.
All right, Judge, you were going to do car, phone, and audio. And
yeah. So but I wanted to say we figured out, Jenny let me know in a private message that the file sharing setting was turned off, and that's why we couldn't see it.
Okay, can you do it now?
Well, no, it still hasn't popped up. But what I thought I'd do is I'd do a file sharing through the share screen setting. And
okay,
how that
so
goes.
there are two ways that we could share files with you. One is through the chatting, which is turned off in our settings right now. And the other is by going back to the green share screen button, which the judge will do now.
Right. So I'm going to try, hopefully it'll succeed, to share with you a PDF that I've created that has 3 links that I think are very useful for Zoom, and then you'll be able to download them and use them. So I'm going to go here. And it just takes a moment because it makes me sign in. Every time I gotta sign in to use it. Let's see. Okay, there's the file to everyone should be able to get it. Now, this is the one, remember I said the server was temporarily unavailable. I think Zoom is either having a problem or Google's having a problem. It won't let me share it. It keeps telling me the server's unavailable.
No problem. A lot of people still raising their hand. People still going into the waiting room. We don't want anybody in the waiting room. It's purgatory in there.
I let her in. Okay. So normally, if the host has not turned off file sharing, there will be a button at the bottom of the chat to the right of where it says to everyone that'll say files. You can click on that. You can say you want to share a file from your computer, select it wherever it is on your hard drive, and then a link will come up for everybody in the chat. They can click on it and download it, and then they can read it. One of the questions we got before the seminar started was, what is the file size limit? It's actually very useful. It's a 525 megabyte file size limit. That's pretty large and should accommodate most of the files that you would ever want to share. Phone in for audio. So as I showed you in the settings before, one setting is to automatically have your computer audio be the way you communicate, that you can hear and that you can speak in a Zoom meeting. But the other way is through your phone. Every invitation to a Zoom meeting, you'll notice, has phone numbers also. It becomes a little bit more problematic when there's a password, because now you have to type in a lot more to get into the Zoom meeting with your audio. But the link will also usually have an automatic, what they call a one-click link. Basically, you push one button and it will dial all of the numbers you need. So you can paste all of that into your phone, and it has a bunch of commas because those are pauses, and then it automatically types in the password. But let's assume there is no password, or you're going to type in the password. What you would do is you would join the Zoom meeting. You would not join your computer audio. So you would not have audio from the computer, and then on your phone, presumably on a speaker phone, or you can just hold the phone during the Zoom meeting, you would dial into Zoom. On the participants list, and there are some folks here who I know are participating by audio because I see that they're I see their name 2 or 3 times. I don't know why 3, it should only be 2, but you will appear in the participant list twice. One time it'll be your cell phone, and the other time will be your computer that you've zoomed in on. The advantage of doing this is that the audio is much better on this phone than it is over the internet. There's not really that lag. That you can have a little bit more of overtalk, which you can't really do during the Zoom, because if Scott starts talking while I'm talking, we miss the beginning of what he said. You start to miss what I'm saying. So the audio used that way is much, much better. Next thing we wanted to talk about is be prepared for disaster. Always have a backup. So here today, I'm using the desktop computer in my chambers, but with me, I have a laptop in case this went down, and we discussed this yesterday. Scott said, all right, what do we do? Worst case scenario. You got to be prepared for it. So first worst case scenario is I grab my laptop and I try to log in that way. If that's not working either, then I'm going to grab my phone, and every smartphone will work with Zoom. They have for all of the, well, I shouldn't say there are some weird platforms out there, but there's an Apple app and there's definitely an Android app. And you can see everyone. It's not easy. You can only see 3 people at a time, I think it is, and you can scroll to see other people on the meeting. You can definitely see the speaker and you can hear everything. And if you have a phone that doesn't, if you have a BlackBerry, like some people on this meeting, then you can dial in and just, BlackBerry doesn't.
In their right mind would still have a BlackBerry.
So you can just dial in and participate in a Zoom hearing by phone. So worst case scenarios, you're going to pick up the phone, dial into the hearing, explain to the judge you had a problem, and go on. One of the Arthur hearings I did, the prosecutor was having a bad connection in her apartment. First, she went outside to the balcony, and then all we could hear was birds, because the audio, these mics are so sensitive. So ultimately, she just ended up doing the hearing from her phone inside her apartment where it was quieter. But have a backup plan, because something will go wrong. Make sure if you're using a laptop that you have it plugged in so you don't run out of power. And if you're using a desktop, hope the power doesn't go out, but have a laptop just in case.
All right, Judge, we have a question from the spectacular 13th Judicial Circuit. How will Zoom court hearings meet the public access to court hearings?
Well, that's going to be an issue of providing notification. What we do here is the courtrooms are being assigned a Zoom ID. So the ID that normally you would type in to join a meeting, that's public. We tell all the prosecutors, all the PDs, if a family member calls our chambers and says, hey, you're having a hearing and we want to attend, we absolutely give them the number. We encourage the lawyers to do it. We haven't yet figured out how do we make sure everybody can have access to it. I'm sure at some point we will put it up on our website, on our individual judges' websites, so people will have access to it. But we do not bar anybody from a Zoom meeting. One of the advantages, I should have mentioned this earlier in a break room, is it can also be used as a sidebar. So knowing that Zoom is open and it is like a courtroom, everybody there can hear everything that's going on. If you need to have a private discussion with the judge and opposing counsel, you can just ask the judge, let's go into a break room, and that is a sidebar. It would not be the waiting room, because remember, the waiting room is purgatory. Nobody can see or hear each other, but you could go into a break room and do that. But we make it open, there are no passwords, and we want everybody who wants to attend to attend. The press is using it also. The press routinely comes into our Zoom hearings.
Judge, here's another question for us, also from the 13th. It's about how we would introduce evidence the question specifies in a probation violation hearing, such as cocaine via Zoom.
Okay, so That's the hard part. What we have done is we have, it's not an administrative order, but it's an administrative memo giving guidance to the lawyers. So in the criminal division, we've issued a rule that if we're going to have a Zoom evidentiary hearing and you want to introduce documents or any evidence, you must file it with the clerk 48 hours ahead of time. Judge Bailey likes to say that in the 11th Judicial Circuit, we have today's technology tomorrow. We are way behind. So in the criminal division, everything is paper. And when motions or informations are filed, anything is filed electronically. The clerk's office actually prints it out and puts it in a paper file and then carries it into the courtroom. So if lawyers file their documents that they want to use at the evidentiary hearing 48 hours ahead of time, it gives the clerks enough time to print it out, and then they come into the courtroom with it. Of course, the rule also says you have to email it to opposing counsel, you have to email it to the judge. So before the hearing ever starts, I will have all of the exhibits that the lawyers plan to introduce, and there will be an exhibit list as a cover, and with nice boxes describing what the exhibit is and whether it's been admitted into evidence or not, and what the exhibit number is. That will cover 95% of the evidentiary issues we have during a hearing. For physical evidence, there is no easy solution, but I think we can cover 99.9% of it with pictures, because is there really a need for us to touch the cocaine? Generally, no. There may be exceptions to that. But if you don't really need to have the cocaine physically touched, then you can just take a picture of it and submit it. And both sides generally being reasonable, that will be sufficient. The actual cocaine can be delivered to the clerk's office and put in the evidence vault. Same thing with weapons. Rarely do we actually need to hold the gun that is being introduced into evidence. But if we need to, then the officer can bring it to the courtroom and show it to me. And remember, we're talking right now only about evidentiary hearings, not trials. So the question will be, are there really circumstances where I, as the judge and the fact finder in that hearing, need to touch the item? If I do, then we'll make provisions for it. But 99.9% of the time, we'll be able to do it with the pictures.
All right, Judge, let's take one more question before we get to the last section of our presentation, which is enhancing Zoom advocacy while maintaining Zoom etiquette. Here's the question. This comes from the too smart for their own good category, because you and I have spoken about this. Is there a way to keep those boxes containing the participants in their same place, to keep someone in the upper left-hand corner, to keep someone next to him or her? The way these boxes keep changing, Smith becomes Jones, who becomes Brown, who becomes Green, is very distracting.
Yeah, welcome to my world. So I'm sitting in arraignments and I will have about 20 or 30 people, and somebody talks it. I don't know who it is. I'm looking for that yellow outline around the person, but it takes a while to figure it out. So we share your frustration. Even if they just put them alphabetically, it might be more helpful. I'm sure that people have complained to Zoom, and maybe someday they'll let you pin multiple boxes. What I think they should at least let you do is pin multiple boxes, right? So if I wanted to, it would just be me and Scott, and I would have that pinned. But they don't even let you do that. And even as late as last night, Scott and I discussed it, and I researched it one more time to make sure that I cannot move these boxes around. And at this point, we cannot.
I'm not sure of the answer to this next question we can squeeze in. It's from Krista Dolan at the Innocence Project. Do we know about Zoom functionality at the Department of Corrections facilities, not just local jails from jurisdiction to jurisdiction?
Yeah, we're getting that question a lot. As far as we know, nobody has advised us that there is Zoom availability at any of the prisons. Obviously, it'd be helpful for us if they did, then we could do some Rule 3s, evidentiary hearings. But right now, for a Rule 3 evidentiary hearing, we have to transport the inmate to the local jail, and those are happening now, but they're very slow. They don't have nearly as much transportation capacity as they had before. So hopefully they will. I have to assume they will at some point, but not yet that I'm aware of.
All right, so let's just talk for a moment.
Let me add one more thing. I apologize. We hadn't discussed this before, Scott, but this is coming online next week, at least for us. Zoom, one of the frustrating things in our hearings has been when the defendant needs a translator, because there is no simultaneous translation, or there hadn't been until now. And so we would have a box with the defendant, me, the lawyers, and the translator. And everything I said or the lawyer said, we would have to pause. We would have to speak in chunks, give the interpreter a chance to interpret, and then keep going. Unbelievably frustrating. The pleas are taking 2 or 3 times as long. Zoom has the capability of creating a second audio channel that will have just the interpreter and just the defendant on it. The defendant will hear our volume, the lawyers and the judge at 20%, and hear the interpreter at 80%. And then vice versa, I'll hear the defendant at 20% and the interpreter at 80%. And we'll be able to have simultaneous translation. And we think we're going to turn that on Monday. So that's going to help us a lot. But if you're in a jurisdiction that does not have that yet, let them know Zoom does have that functionality.
All right. Only because any question from Elizabeth Boots, we're going to take. One time during this presentation, she got a network bandwidth is low signal. Is that her own issue, or is it appearing on our screens as well?
No, it's hers. Yeah.
You know, as one of the things you can do to enhance your Zoom, there are 3 key things, right? Your processor power, your network bandwidth, and your memory. And so closing any other applications in your computer before you Zoom that doesn't drain any of those things.
Right. Very useful.
Okay, so Zoom, advocacy, and etiquette. We could have had our own hour and a half just on this. I picked my top 12 things to give to you now. The judge has some as well. Number 1, some of these we've already covered. Always mute when you come into a meeting. Mute as best you can when you're not talking. It's just always safer. And if you can get the functionality, check the box so you just press the space bar to unmute yourself when you want to speak. You'll thank yourself later. Number 2, if your remote virtual video environment becomes distracting, if you're moving positions, don't make everybody suffer on your Zoom conference while you do that. Turn your video off, go to your new setup, or just turn your video off while the distraction is going on, and then turn back on. 3, don't eat while you're on Zoom. Don't fold your laundry while you're on Zoom. It's just so easy to do. Who knows how much of the new abnormal this is going to become, but don't engage in unrelated activities, household and otherwise. 4, your no video screen for professional purposes should only have your name, maybe with your title on the end. It shouldn't have your favorite picture or meme or whatever. 5, you've got to speak slower than you normally would have. Pause, even if everything sounds okay on your end. You're not aware of the internet quality on the other end or ends. The lag in audio. Speak slower than normal. 6, don't sway in your chair. Don't swivel around. It's all very distracting. Using your hands for every syllable, very distracting. So to comport with ever developing Zoom etiquette and to increase the quality of our advocacy, try not to be self-distracting as well. 7, whatever you want to use during your hearing, documents, references, cases, have them around you, set up where you know where they are and easily accessible, so you don't have to stop a hearing, so you don't have to stand up from your position to retrieve them. 8, a recommendation. Whenever the judge speaks, just stop speaking. So you don't have to say, okay, judge, you go, or I'm sorry. Just let the judge speak. Judges will be on higher alert, we trust, to recognize people who want to be heard in this virtual environment. And we may want to speak over opposing counsel, especially the more frustrated we again. But let's at least pledge that when the judge wants to speak, let's stop talking.
And by the way, it works really well to just do this when you want to speak. We can see you.
Yeah, I would do that, or number 9, what I was going to say, if you want to object, normally we would make our legal ground objection and state our legal ground, and then wait to be heard as to any argument to make it outside the presence of a jury if there were one. A better practice seems to be here, just object, wait to be recognized, and then give your legal ground. Obviously, if you feel like things are coming out from the other side and they're not playing by the rules, I think you need to ask that the judge insist that we play by the new Zoom rules and just make yourself known by raising your hand virtually, by putting the clapping hands up there, or by stating objection, and then wait to be recognized. 10, practice these technologies so you're as smooth as possible during your hearings, whether you're using the whiteboard, sharing an exhibit, annotating on the exhibit. The smoother you are, the more we can agree as opposing counsel on what exhibits to introduce, provide the court with an electronic binder of the exhibits, just referring someone to a PDF page and an attachment that everyone shares. It can make our lives a lot easier. 11, of course, passion and intention is not only reserved for when we're speaking to juries, and again, with all the procedural and constitutional hoops that we would have to jump through to make that satisfactory to everybody, defendants in particular, victims in particular. Who knows if that's ever going to happen. But still, there's plenty of advocacy where we need passion and intention as appropriate. They're critical. And it's too easy just to either go overboard or to have your script and just read it, not even looking into the camera. This is a screen culture we're in, television, laptops, our phones. And what do we do when we're at home? As soon as something is dissatisfactory to us, we mute it, we turn the channel, we fast forward it. My students at FIU Law have been the test crash folks on this. We did jury trials. Judge Della O presided over one about a week and a half ago. We did 4 jury trials with 12 or 13 jurors each. Some of you are out there. And the students worked very hard channeling Marshall McLuhan, right, the media strategist from the 1960s. The medium is the message. This is a TV hearing, so we have to take into account the medium for its effect on the message. So maybe we need to be shorter-winded than usual. And really what we learned in school, to start strong and end strong, that's maybe really what we need to do now, because the medium is the message. And lastly, as Judge Della O told you, don't worry if things go wrong. This is new, at least for now. None of us is perfect. We should expect issues to go wrong. And everyone on this call knows that pressure is a privilege in our line of work. So we fix what we can, we apologize for what we cannot cure, and we move on to get through the hearing. Those are my top 12. Judge, did you want to add anything before we see if we have any last minute questions, and then we'll close?
Let me start with in the chat. Is that it? Yeah. In the chat, I am sharing the 3 links I was trying to send you through the file sharing that I couldn't. The first one is the Zoom Help Center link. They have remarkable videos, tutorials, step-by-step checklists on what to do on Zoom. Any question you have, you put it into their search box. You can also do it in Google. You can just type Zoom and then whatever your question is, but their help center is great. The second link I sent you is some backgrounds. It's just a website that put together 8 or 9 professional backgrounds for offices. And then the last one's an article the Florida Association of Women Lawyers put together on Zoom hearings, and I thought it had some very good tips in it. So I've shared that with you. One of the things I took away from having presided over the mock trial that the FIU students did is how hard it is to be effective in cross-examination with witnesses, because normally when a witness is not answering and you need to cut them off, it's very easy to do when you're standing in front of them. Much harder to do in this system, especially when there's a lag. So you're trying to interrupt the witness, they're still talking, the beginning of your interruption is cut off. You have to really focus on your questions, keeping them tight. And trying to keep the witness under control is going to be a challenge. And I saw it with the students. I gave them a pass on not being able to control the witnesses as well. It is very, very hard to do. We did get a question from Ben Cuny while you were talking, Scott, and he asked along these lines, do you recommend that we stand and position our computer in a standing position during court proceedings to emphasize decorum? I think that that's certainly acceptable. I think one or two of the students in that trial was actually standing. I thought it helped them to try to be more persuasive by using their hands, using their body language, and they were very good about backing up the camera so you could capture more of them. If you have the camera too close, then you just become a talking head. And I admitted to Scott a couple of days ago in the afternoon session, I started to nod off at one point, and I realized what happened, and of course that my adrenaline level went up, and I got in a burst of energy, and I was able to keep focusing. But it was hard when all I'm seeing is a face and lips moving. It can get really tedious.
Well, it's a good point you make. If you're up here,
right,
then all of your passion and intention is right here. There's nothing from your shoulders, your arms, your hands. If you want to sit, I would recommend a farther view. You know, it's like we're going to be doing a lot of discovery over this, right? And civil lawyers know this, doing video depositions for forever. You don't put the witness like this. You don't know if they have their phone, if they're texting, if they're getting messages, if they're reading from a script, if they're being cued in from off camera. So you can stand if you want, for sure. I would have rehearsed it. I would have mapped out your position so it's not awkward. I think you need to record yourself on Zoom, do it all, and see which makes more sense. But if you're going to be seated, a view that allows your intention to be known will help stop the audience from dozing off. These boring television minutes are in dog years. So early in the hearing, multiply it by 7, however long you're boring them. In hour 2 by 14, and hour 3 by 21. Okay. Any other questions you have on your end, Judge? I don't have any on mine.
I do not.
All right, so let's say a few words in closing. First of all, thank you from our chair, Jennifer Zadalis, from Warren Lindsay, our chair-elect, from everyone on our CLE committee, to the 400 of you who are basically still here, to Judge De La O for giving us of his time and talent here. Thank you. We hope you learned some things to make your job a little easier, to make your life a little easier. The course number is 3972, 3972. The recording of this will be up soon on the criminal law section's website, floridabarcls.org. Pass it along to folks you know who were not able to join us. Remember the private tutorials, which are available to any one of you on this conference. Just email Jenny and let her know, and we'll see to it. Lots of great CLE is on the horizon for you. All right. Next Thursday, May 21st at noon, we're going to talk about attorney wellness. Even the hardiest of us dealing with the stress, the anxiety, the pressure, the isolation of our new lives right now. Dr. Scott Weinstein, who is the clinical director of Florida Lawyers Assistance, he's going to check up on all of us, along with Molly Paris, who's also a lawyer. She's the executive director of FLA. We're going to talk about coping tools, mechanisms, taking our questions, and a month later, it's going to be the check up on how we're doing and how to cope next Thursday. A month from then, at the end of June, Dr. Weinstein's going to come back and check in on us to see how we're doing. It's not only to talk about all the great resources that FLA has and is providing newly, virtually, for all of us to keep moving forward. So that's next Thursday on Attorney Wellness. That email has gone out, that advertising has begun. At 3 o'clock that same afternoon, from some great lawyers at Squire Patton Boggs, we're going to do a CARES Act and federal oversight CLE for an hour and a half. Not only how to get the funds that a lot of small businesses are still trying to get through their banks, the rules and regulations as to those, but in terms of prosecuting and representing folks who fall afoul, allegedly or genuinely, of the intense federal oversight of at least some of what's going on. That'll be a great CLE from some really great lawyers all over the country for Squire Patton Boggs. May 28th, Thursday, we're going to talk about our changing state criminal justice landscape. Last week, we had almost 300 of you to hear from Judge Scola, Henry Bell as moderator, Michael Caruso, the federal defender here in the Southern District, and Tony Gonzalez, the first assistant United States attorney here in the Southern District, about the changing federal landscape. Well, we have prosecutors, public defenders, and regional counsel from all over the state. They're going to answer all your questions, talk about what's going on in their respective jurisdictions. The demand for that has been so great, we may split the state in half and do Monroe County to Palm Beach in one of them and Orlando North in the other. We will surely let you know. June 4th, our Experts on Advocacy series begins. Our most talented members of the section speaking with you for an hour to an hour and a half on areas of law that they are expert in. Jennifer Zadalis, our chair, begins with her episode 1 of the series called The Storyboard, bringing your story to life in the courtroom from your head and your legal pad. And of course, Dennis DeVlaming is finishing recording right now our latest 3.113 compliance CLE for Discovery and Brady and Giglio. That'll be up on our website soon. Our changing appellate landscape. Ben Cuny and Michael Smith are working on that with some other very talented folks. And maybe, starting in October, live planning returns. Right? Advanced Federal Practice is October 23rd in Miami, with David Marcus and Margot Moss heading that. I'm in charge of the criminal law update on the FIU Law campus on Friday, November 13th, with Justice Anstead coming down to speak over lunch as our featured speaker. Got him. We have a healthcare prosecution and defense seminar. Maricel Del Scalzo is taking care of that December 4th in Orlando, and looking longer term DUI masters in April of 2021. Join our section, right? Get involved. There are over 2,100 of us, prosecutors, defenders, judges, educators. We're never going to agree on everything. We're never supposed to agree on everything, but through the section for sure. And particularly while this COVID-19 window of, thank God we didn't die, being open before we go back to our normal selves, at least in the criminal law section, we believe we can like one another more. We can certainly respect one another more. So it's a great community to be a part of. And our chair and chair-elect, all of us invite you to it. Make an impact. How a society treats its outcasts, the least among it, says perhaps the most about the type of society that we are and that we yearn to become. That's what we believe anyway. Judge DeLo, anything you want to say in closing?
Nope, just thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Everybody, keep on keeping safe. I hope we see you in person soon enough. Probably no handshaking or a hug, but at least an elbow. And next Thursday with Dr. Weinstein. Hope to see you there too. Thanks for being with us.
Have a good day.